You've never touched a cigarette in your life. You avoid secondhand smoke like the plague. You eat clean, you exercise, and you think you've done everything right. Then one day, a persistent cough sends you to the doctor, and the CT scan comes back with a shadow on your lung. Stage 3 adenocarcinoma. You're 45 years old, you've never smoked, and you have lung cancer. How is this possible? The answer is going to make you angry because the causes have been hiding in plain sight, lurking in your home, your workplace, and even the air you breathe. We're about to expose the invisible killers that are giving non-smokers lung cancer at alarming rates. And by the end of this, you'll know exactly how to protect yourself. Let's destroy the first myth. Lung cancer is not a smoker's disease. It never was. Between 10 and 20% of all lung cancer cases occur in people who have never smoked. That's up to 40,000 people per year in the United States alone. If lung cancer in non-smokers were classified as its own disease, it would rank in the top 10 causes of cancer death. These aren't statistical outliers. These are real people whose lungs are being destroyed by factors the medical establishment barely talks about. So let's talk mechanisms. Let's go deep into the biology of what's actually killing lung cells. Your lungs are not solid organs. They're delicate sponges made of 300 million tiny air sacs called alveoli. Each alveolus is wrapped in a net of capillaries where oxygen transfers into your blood and carbon dioxide exits. The walls of these sacs are 1 cell thick. That's it. One microscopic layer of tissue separating your bloodstream from the outside world. This makes your lungs incredibly efficient at gas exchange, but it also makes them catastrophically vulnerable. Anything you inhale that's smaller than 2.5 microns, and we're talking about particles 30 times smaller than a human hair, can penetrate deep into the alveoli and embed itself in the tissue. Once there, these particles trigger a cascade of cellular damage that can lead to cancer. The process is called carcinogenesis, and it doesn't require tobacco. It just requires the right poison and enough time. Hidden cause number 1, radon gas. This is the silent assassin. Radon is a naturally occurring radioactive gas that seeps up from the ground. It's produced when uranium in soil and rock decays. You can't see it, you can't smell it, and you can't taste it. It's completely undetectable without specialized equipment. Radon enters homes through cracks in the foundation, gaps around pipes, and even well water. Once inside, it accumulates in basements and lower floors. When you breathe radon, radioactive particles lodge in your lung tissue. These particles emit alpha radiation, high-energy bullets that slam into the DNA of your lung cells. Each hit damages the genetic code. Your body tries to repair it, but over years of exposure, the repair mechanisms fail. Mutations accumulate. Normal cells transform into malignant ones. The Environmental Protection Agency estimates that radon causes 21,000 lung cancer deaths per year, making it the second leading cause of lung cancer after smoking. The terrifying part? Most people have no idea if their home has elevated radon. Testing is cheap, under $20 for a kit, but fewer than 10% of homes in high-risk areas have been tested. If you live in a region with granite bedrock or uranium-rich soil, the Appalachian region, the Midwest, parts of the Rocky Mountains, your risk is exponentially higher. You need to test your home. Not next month. This week. Hidden cause number 2, asbestos exposure. Asbestos is a group of naturally occurring mineral fibers that were used in construction for decades because they're fireproof and incredibly strong. The problem is, when asbestos degrades, it releases microscopic fibers into the air. These fibers are shaped like tiny needles. When you inhale them, they pierce deep into your lung tissue and stay there. Forever. Your immune system tries to destroy them by sending white blood cells to engulf the fibers, but the fibers are too tough to break down. The white blood cells die trying, releasing inflammatory chemicals that damage surrounding tissue. This chronic inflammation creates an environment where cancer thrives. The latency period between asbestos exposure and lung cancer diagnosis can be 20 to 50 years. You might have been exposed as a child in an old school building, and the cancer doesn't show up until you're 60. Asbestos was used in insulation, floor tiles, ceiling tiles, roofing materials, and even brake pads. If you live in a house built before 1980, there's a high probability you have asbestos somewhere. Renovation and demolition release the fibers. If you're planning to gut a basement or tear down walls, you need an asbestos inspection first. Disturbing asbestos without proper containment is like detonating a cancer bomb in your lungs. Hidden cause number 3, air pollution. This one affects everyone, but city dwellers pay the highest price. Particulate matter, specifically PM 2.5, refers to particles smaller than 2.5 microns. These come from car exhaust, industrial emissions, construction dust, and wildfires. PM 2.5 penetrates the deepest parts of your lungs and crosses into your bloodstream. Once inside lung cells, these particles trigger oxidative stress, a biochemical process where unstable molecules called free radicals attack cell structures. This damages DNA and triggers mutations. Studies have shown that living near a major highway increases lung cancer risk by 20 to 40%, even if you've never smoked. The World Health Organization classified outdoor air pollution as a Group 1 carcinogen, the same category as tobacco and asbestos. Cities with chronic smog, Los Angeles, Beijing, New Delhi, show elevated lung cancer rates in non-smokers. But here's what makes this sinister. You can't avoid breathing. You can quit smoking, you can avoid radon by moving, but unless you live on a mountain with pristine air, you're constantly exposed to particulate matter. The only mitigation is air filtration. HEPA filters in your home can trap PM 2.5 before it enters your lungs. If you live in a polluted area, this isn't optional. It's survival. Hidden cause number 4, cooking fumes. This is the one that shocks people. Cooking, especially frying and grilling at high temperatures, releases polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons and volatile organic compounds into the air. When oil reaches its smoke point, it breaks down and releases toxic particles. Studies in China and Southeast Asia, where stir-frying over high heat is common, found that non-smoking women who cook daily have a 2 to 3 times higher risk of lung cancer compared to those who don't. The mechanism is inhalation of carcinogens during cooking. Without proper ventilation, these particles accumulate in the kitchen and get breathed in repeatedly over decades. The fix is simple but underutilized. Use an exhaust hood that vents outside, not one that recirculates air. Cook at lower temperatures when possible. Avoid heating oil until it smokes. These small changes reduce your exposure by up to 90%. Hidden cause number 5, occupational hazards. Certain jobs are cancer incubators. Diesel mechanics breathe exhaust fumes loaded with benzene and formaldehyde. Construction workers inhale silica dust from cutting concrete and stone. Hairdressers are exposed to formaldehyde and keratin treatments. Even office workers in poorly ventilated buildings can be exposed to mold, volatile organic compounds from carpets and furniture, and diesel fumes from parking garages. The difference between occupational exposure and environmental exposure is duration and concentration. If you're spending 8 to 10 hours a day in a contaminated environment, your cumulative dose skyrockets. Occupational lung cancer often goes undiagnosed because doctors don't ask about work history. If you develop unexplained respiratory symptoms, wheezing, chronic cough, shortness of breath, tell your doctor exactly what you do for a living and what chemicals or dusts you're exposed to. Hidden cause number 6, genetic mutations. About 10 to 15% of lung cancers in non-smokers are driven by inherited or spontaneous genetic mutations. The most common are mutations in the EGFR gene, ALK gene, and ROS1 gene. These mutations cause cells to grow uncontrollably without external triggers. Women, particularly those of East Asian descent, have higher rates of EGFR-mutated lung cancer. The good news is that these cancers often respond better to targeted therapies than smoking-related cancers. Drugs like osimertinib and crizotinib can block the effects of these mutations, turning a death sentence into a manageable chronic condition. But you only get access to these treatments if your tumor is genetically tested. Standard chemotherapy doesn't work as well on these cancers. If you're diagnosed with lung cancer as a non-smoker, demand comprehensive molecular testing. It could save your life. Hidden cause number 7, secondhand and third-hand smoke. Even if you don't smoke, prolonged exposure to someone else's smoke increases your risk by 20 to 30%. Third-hand smoke is even more insidious. This is the residue that clings to walls, furniture, and clothing after someone smokes. The chemicals in tobacco smoke, nicotine, benzene, polonium, don't just vanish when the cigarette is out. They settle on surfaces and continue emitting toxins for months. Children growing up in homes where parents smoked outdoors still show elevated levels of tobacco byproducts in their blood. If you're buying a used car or moving into a home previously occupied by smokers, you're inheriting their carcinogens. So what do you do with this information? First, test your home for radon. If levels are above 4 picocuries per liter, install a mitigation system. Second, if your home was built before 1980, Get an asbestos inspection before any renovation. Third, invest in HEPA air purifiers for your bedroom and main living areas. Fourth, improve kitchen ventilation and avoid overheating cooking oils. Fifth, if you work in a high-risk occupation, use proper respiratory protection and push for better workplace ventilation. Sixth, if you're a non-smoker diagnosed with lung cancer, insist on genetic testing to identify targetable mutations. And finally, advocate for yourself. If you have a chronic cough, unexplained weight loss, or chest pain, don't let a doctor dismiss you because you don't smoke. Demand imaging. Early detection is the difference between stage 1, which has an 80 to 90% survival rate, and stage 4, which has a 10% survival rate. Lung cancer in non-smokers is rising and the medical system is still catching up. You can't wait for them. You have to act now.